Hey gamers, I'm Daniel, author of Logical Fantasy Gaming. You may be wondering, with all the fantasy RPGs out there, why make LFG? What's its purpose? What kind of game experience should I expect? I designed LFG to be the most engaging and immersive RPG you can find. I set out to build a more realistic, detail-oriented RPG with crunchy rules that make the game world and especially combat as believable as possible within the realm of fantasy. Why, you may ask? Well, over my decades of experience, I never played an RPG where the combat and magic felt real enough, where I was truly immersed and really believed the world I was adventuring in. My suspension of disbelief would get me pretty far, but inevitably, something would happen where the rules just didn't make sense. Something couldn't be done, wasn't allowed, or worked in an illogical manner. For example, in D&D 5e, size has almost no impact on combat. An average 40-pound gnome hits as hard as a 160-pound human, and the 3-foot tall gnome is exactly as easy to hit as the 6-foot tall human. It just doesn't make sense, and it breaks my immersion every time. Anyway, the most immersive games I found were Pathfinder First Edition and its earlier cousin, D&D 3.5. They had the most detail, the crunchiest combat rules, and got the closest to maintaining my suspension of disbelief. But the more I learned about historical combat, the more I realized how inaccurate the assumptions and generalizations about weapons, armor, and combat are in most RPGs. I started asking questions like, why would I ever use a dagger if I could use a short sword? Or why a short sword instead of a long sword? Or a short bow instead of a long bow? I found plenty of historical and practical reasons, but the games had no good answers for these questions. One was just better all the time. So I decided to change that. Over a decade ago, I started LFG as a combat realism mod for Pathfinder First Edition. I started updating the weapons, armor, and combat rules to better represent historical functionality, weights, and combat style. In LFG, there is a good reason to have a dagger instead of a short sword. They're more useful in a grapple. A short bow is easier to use in dense brush or on horseback than a longbow. A warhammer is more likely to damage a foe in heavy armor than a longsword, but the longsword will have the advantage against a lightly armored target. Context matters. Then D&D 3.5 and Pathfinder were discontinued. Those were the last titans of the crunchy rules left behind for the stripped down D&D we have now. So I decided to make LFG into a full-fledged RPG to fill that gap and provide a realistic system with strong tactical mechanics and rules that maintain suspension of disbelief for players who enjoy a game with a lot of depth and detail. All right, now you know a little bit about the history and purpose of LFG, and hopefully this gives you some insight about what to expect when you play. If immersive fantasy, tactical combat, and rules that make sense sound like something you're into, check out all our free resources at logicalfantasygaming.com. Want to know more about how we made combat more engaging? You can check out this video here. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy gaming.